Well, hello everyone. I'm very grateful to the organizers for having me here. I can present Takeda's new data, and as I listened to previous presentations, I realized that we're all in the same boat, we're all in the same situation, we're all thinking within the same mindset. And it's nice as a representative of pharmaceutical industry to be on the same wavelength with all other representatives of this big market. I would like to start my presentation by showing you a very interesting publication. That's a Deloitte's publication on the digital transformation of the healthcare 2020. The results of this study have shown the same problems that we're facing today in terms of the use of digital technologies in a real clinical practice. In 2020, the situation looked like this. Well, the digital transformation wasn't positively accepted. Many critics say it's very expensive, it's very hard, you don't have enough data, but after some time, and of course, because of COVID-19, because many people had to work from home and to make specific decisions, well, there were cases when the pharmaceutical industry switched to the digital format, and not just Takeda, but other companies began to implement a lot of digital projects. Well, now medical organizations have begun to unify the data and to have in-depth courses for their staff. With Russia, the process is basically the same. Maybe we're slightly behind the rest of the world. But although despite the positive trend, Deloitte published some barriers. The use of digital technologies is over bureaucratized. The government doesn't think about the active use of digital technologies. It's not quite clear which technologies are right and which are wrong, which digital technologies should be used, which not. The budget and the price is another problem. Like another problem was the lack of the readiness of people to absorb the right information, because we do not have such people who could use specific technological decisions and, most importantly, trust them. Well, difficulties in the use of technologies, difficulties in the exchange of data, I think that's very important because each country develops technological solutions. And in fact, they are very similar. However, one country cannot share this data with the other due to specific reasons, because these are unique data, etc. But I think such an exchange of information could simplify our life if we could have a more stable and right process of information exchange. Well, and of course, the reliability of such technologies. Well, of course, there is a need to continue to implement artificial intelligence, telemedicine, and to exchange data within the global medical community. That's what we should achieve. Why am I talking to you about this? Well, it's because in RWD, we as a company see the same problems related to technologies, to suppliers, to the quality of data, and so on and so forth. And it is interesting to say that as for all of these healthcare problems, they can be extrapolated to the collection and analysis of RWD. Our company conducts different kinds of studies or trials, clinical trials, and observational trials to get RWD. But as of right now, the company is paying more attention to the digital data resources. And here you can see a very famous slide. You can see different types of data where you can collect this data from. I would add probably mobile apps and data aggregators, well, medical devices, plus publications, including publications from other countries, because different algorithms allow us to identify the most necessary information contained in a specific publication. As of today, our company has a vested interest in unstructured data because there you can find unique information about patients, nosologies, about different predictors and the probable cause of the disease. On the basis of the structural data obtained from different digital sources, we can also make a lot of conclusions, and all our colleagues who spoke here today mentioned those facts and as for Takeda, here we have less structured data because besides the typical studies, we do predictive analysis, and after this, our data becomes more um, structural, and this is our vested interest. Why is it interesting for us? Because such algorithms can make very fast decisions that could be taken without an algorithm, but much later. We can also introduce innovations not only in the pharmaceutical company, but also in the doctor's routine practice. Where are we using these algorithms? First of all, in diagnosis of patients, and that's a predictive analysis. Right now, the company is working on some algorithms that will allow us to find out about the disease in advance. We're also working on algorithms that allow us to provide a personalized medicine. Our global team is actively using the artificial intelligence in clinical trials to develop new drugs. We're involved in health economic research. They use the artificial intelligence algorithm to assess the big data for the pricing policy and for launching a new drug. What are the barriers here? Well, as for artificial intelligence, we've been working with it for 1 year and a half. But that's here globally. Takeda has been doing it much longer, and you can see the problems. First of all, it's how to properly work with personal data, how to test this data, how to process this data, bringing to bear, that personal data can be different. Another problem is the data quality and the lack of a unified one system. We're glad that all our colleagues start realizing that there is a need to unify data, to have some unified data sets for different purposes. Also, cost. The high cost of technologies and also the high cost of data that you use for validation specific algorithms. Cyber security, that's another issue because we are using different kinds of data, and we must be absolutely sure that the use of such data is totally safe for us or for the country that provides us with this data. And finally, the regulatory base, or rather its absence, is another serious problem. Right now, we don't understand Actually, we understand whether we're moving in the right direction. We're moving in the right direction, of course, but we know that as for regulatory documents that could regulate our activities, do not exist in the Russian Federation. There is no unified approach to the selection of the procurer, or, well, uh, to the selection of those who are going to provide data for us. And naturally, there are some barriers with the use of artificial intelligence and the results provided by the artificial intelligence. The first thing I'd like to mention is the transparency of work of artificial intelligence. Why? Because we understand that the artificial intelligence is good. Well, it helps us, but we do not understand clearly whether the data are reliable or not, whether what the artificial intelligence gives us is needed for us. Well, has the machine learned how to properly assess the results, or how to have the quality control points? Right now, we still have a lot of things we don't understand. It's a serious barrier, but we are working on it together. And of course, there is some mistrust on the part of clinicians to the artificial intelligence. High cost is another problem, and obviously there is no unified approach to working with such technologies, no regulatory basis and no criteria to assess the quality. But despite that, a dead end is a good pretext to break walls. So I'm glad that I'm participating in this conference. And well, I think that we are at a conference now that will allow us to break walls and to use innovation technologies to assess the existing data. Thank you very much for your attention.